today's going to be kind of a potpourri, hodgepodge kind of a day. First off, who has gone on to Brokerment and tried to schedule a coaching session lately? You seen any changes? I'm going to show you guys something actually fairly cool. Still testing right now with my account, but you're probably going to see this being changed with all of the coaches on the staff, Mike, Nicole, and Rob too. But I want to show you, there has always been, we've used, I think it's a Google Docs to schedule coaching, and that has worked up until recently, and now it's become problematic just simply because it's easy for people to forget. It's easy for people to not, once you put it in the Google Doc, to not put it on your calendar. So we've tried to make and simplify that process a little bit further. So I'm actually going to show you the new systems tools that will work for this. So you are probably looking at you're looking at my desktop right now. Hang on, I'm trying to sort my screens to get stuff over to you. So you are used to seeing something that looks like Mike's calendar like this. And this is great. Has worked well for now. Now, when you coach, you hit on my coaching calendar through Brokerment, you're going to get something that looks a little bit different, and it looks like this. Okay, and you can see availability of slots that are available. I am completely booked for tomorrow, but I have some available slots starting on Wednesday, Thursday, and I've got, I think, a couple of sessions on Friday morning available too. So this is a great way that you can look against your calendar, determine when you're free, and when you click on, say, for example, you're going to take the Wednesday 2 o'clock slot, it's going to ask you to confirm, and then it's going to ask you for some basic information, your name, your email, whether this is going to be an on-site in the office, a Zoom, or a phone call. If you have anything that you want to share in terms of a specific topic, you're welcome to do so right there. And this is highly important. I strongly suggest you put in your cell phone number so that the system can also text you, and it'll text you an hour before the event, so that if you happen to be out and about running around showing property, and you do need to reschedule this event, you can do so without fear of repercussions and ramifications and all those kind of things that we do. And when you do this, you will receive an email that will automatically put this in your calendar. It'll set up reminders from within your calendar, and it'll remind you also via text, so that there's no chance of you actually missing said appointment. Thoughts, desires, wishes, everybody? Yay. I know I actually had people that were afraid to book a calendar appointment because they were afraid they were going to miss it and then get in trouble for missing it. Fear of retribution is gone. So please use this. Fill my calendar up, please. And let's fill any of those empty slots that I've got on Thursday and Friday and Wednesday afternoon, so that we could take maximum advantage, and I can help you with your business. Okay. Any questions on the new processes for coaching, scheduling coaching? It's very simple. All right, and then watch for, and also if you ever need to, I'm actually going to put a calendar booking icon in my signature block of my email, so that you can click on that anytime, but you always know how to get to it through Brokerment too. All right. Also, that capability also exists. Let me show you one other thing within this. I think you guys are going to like this. If you need to get in touch with me, you can do it a number of different ways. Sorry, folks, let me get to the right screen here. You can also book, if you're interested, you can, sorry, folks. I'm just trying to make sure I get to the right screen. If you don't need a full-blown calendar session with me, but you do have a question, you can just book a quick 15-minute phone call. And I've got slots available for those any time of the week. So if you don't want to take a full-blown 30-minute coaching session and do something more formal, you can simply just book a 15-minute call somewhere during your day that's most convenient for you. And I've only done slots that are available for me when I'm available. So this is also a good way to just get your question answered. All right. Any questions about that? All right, so what I wanted to have some just candid conversations with you guys and get some input from you too. I have had a lot of you that are asking questions about new construction. Cool. Pedram, proofs if it puts it in your calendar, which email. Cool. Pedram, I can't, I'm not sure I understand your question. And he's still on here. What's your question, Pedram? Said something about which email, whatever email address you put into the system, that's what it's going to email it to you. And that's how you'll get your calendar invite too. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, so the question that has been burning on a lot of your minds and that I have been having frank conversations with many of you about is new construction versus resale, and what are the differences, what are some of the challenges, what's my role in a new construction deal, and so I thought it would be a good idea to just have a conversation about it. I don't have anything formally planned in terms of PowerPoints or slides or anything like that, so we're just going to talk about it. All right, so so this is the interactive part. What is your role as an agent for a buyer that's buying new construction versus an agent that is buying resale?
I've done like a few new construction, and as far as my role in the before this market, it's actually just making sure that my buyer knows what's going on. The buyer needs are met. They're aware of the contract because the builder's contract is very much different than the resale contract. So making sure that your buyer stays abreast of when they have to do certain things as far as going to the picking out their the design store, picking out certain things, because most builders do have a deadline for them to do that. If not, they lose their money.
Yep.
Knowing that different new construction requires a different down payment. Some require the lot fees. Some may just take $2,500. So it's just being aware of the contract. You, as the agent, have to read the contract, because as we know, most of the time the buyer is not going to read the contract because there's so much paperwork. So you have to be very on top of that, I found.
Okay. So would you, so let me, great job, Heather Gale. Let me ask you one additional. So is your role any different in new construction versus resale?
The only difference is that the agent does the filling out of the contract. That, to me, that's the only difference. I stay active with the on-site agent. If my buyer is using the loan officer, I stay active in that. Even when they're given a discount, if the buyer uses the loan officer, I always tell my buyers, look outside, compare the numbers, because the cost sometimes for doing that, you're paying, it's in your mortgage. So do the numbers and make sure that it is it's cost effective for you to use their loan officer.
You're absolutely right. So I couldn't agree with you more. Heather Gale is spot on. Your role in both resale and new construction is exactly the same. Your role is to protect your client's interest and to protect their earnest money to a certain extent. So your role is exactly the same. The way in which you do your role is slightly different. Okay. So with new construction, you're still there, just like an attorney, we represent our clients like we do attorneys. You never, you might have some cautionary words to a buyer who is talking about going to a new construction neighborhood, and explain to them, look, just keep in mind that the agent that is on site works directly for that builder, and their loyalties are always going to be to that builder. You need somebody representing your interest and watching out for your interest throughout this entire process. Okay. So now let's reconcile that with one other thing. And Heather Gale actually said it. Are you actually the one in new construction, the majority of the time, are you actually the one that is writing the offer?
No, the other agent writes the offer at the location. If it's DR Horton or Century 21, they write the contract, and the contract cannot be changed. So it is important, like Heather Gale said, for you to read through the contract, because you're not going to GAR forms.
Right. So you're absolutely right. And there's a script for this too. So when you are dealing with new construction, the vast majority of the time, if you're dealing with a large builder like a DR Horton or Pulte or Meritage or any of the big names, you are going to be using their contract documents. You are not going to be using necessarily a GAR contract doc. Okay. Having said that, and so you're not going to be filling it out, but you are going to be reviewing it. So having said that, how do you do that? And how do you reconcile your role in this if you're not actually the one that's writing the contract? Do you still have input to it? Do you still have the opportunity to explain it to your client? Is it negotiable?
To some extent. Some of the appliances may or may not be negotiable. Some of the design features, like if they want a certain color cabinet or a certain color flooring, if it's available, things like that in the contract are negotiable. But I know with I primarily deal with DR Horton, it's pretty straightforward, and there's not too much you can change.
Yep, you're right. First off, everything is negotiable in contracts. Everything is negotiable theoretically, whether or not, and it depends entirely upon the builder whether or not they're willing to play games or not with you, with regards to sales price or features or different things. So if you don't, if the contract isn't necessarily may or may not be negotiable, you're not drafting it, is that a reason for you as their agent to lean back, hands off, and say, okay, well, you guys do you? Can you do that in this situation?
I've learned that even though they say a lot of things aren't negotiable, I've always told the agent, I know the agent has a supervisor. So there are things that I said, okay, I know you have to say no to me, but before you say no to my client, check with the person above you and let me know.
That's a very good point, and I love that. Thank you for that, Gail. That's some good input. You're absolutely right. Everything is negotiable, and if you get told no to the first time, ask somebody else, and keep going. Okay. So now, having said everything that we've said so far, how do you feel about, okay, if everything is negotiable and if your role is still the same, but yet you're not writing the offer, but yet you're getting a document from the builder that's 100 pages long, how do you reconcile all the terms and what your client is signing up for in a 100-page document versus an 8-page document that you get in a purchase and sale agreement?
One bite at a time. No, I just went through one. It was like 70 some pages, and I just got a notepad and just started making bulletins, going all the way down, and then got with the office person at the builder and kind of went through all the points. Some of the points are written that way to protect the builder. It's a contract, right? So they're very loosely worded.
Yep.
I wasn't able to get any budge on it, but I was able to get an email saying, like, these are written to protect the builder. We are flexible. We'll make the client happy. It was like simple stuff of like the inspector. They told me when they do the inspection, they'll fix anything the client finds. And in the contract, it was only it's government permits, right? So the rough and the final, and that's it. So just little stuff like that. I wasn't able to, unfortunately, change anything, but that email kind of made me and the client feel better. And then I felt like if I got nothing out of it, didn't get the email, at least advise the client that these potential risks are in the contract.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, absolutely. So I think the question that I was drilling down to, and you kind of picked up on it, Pedro, and I appreciate that, is I actually had a client that pressed me on this, and I was very impressed with their level of intellect about this. Okay, if I had explained to them a builder's contract is going to be much larger and it's going to be weighted more towards the builder than it is for you, the buyer. And he said, well, okay, if I can't change it and if it's weighted towards them, should I be worried about signing the contract? Is there anything in here that should be concerning to me to the point where I don't sign it? And I was like, ooh, good question. How do I how do you respond to somebody that says if it's weighted towards them, should I be concerned about signing a builder's contract? How do you respond to that?
Should talk to her. Shouldn't they at that point, if they're really concerned about the legality of the terms and stuff, speak with an attorney?
Okay. That's a very valid statement, and yes, you could. If you have questions about the legalities of legal language in the document, I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm more about marketing of properties. I am not an attorney. If you have a question about an attorney, you should absolutely get those addressed. But to answer the question, should you be concerned about signing that document? Well, so here was my take on it, and my response to this particular client was the GAR documents that I would typically write if I was writing this contract have protections that are built in for both parties in a transaction, buyers and sellers. A builder's contract is primarily going to be weighted towards them in situations where it comes down to terminating the contract or getting what happens to the deposit / earnest money and things like that. There are differences there simply because builders operate in a different world. They don't do earnest money, they take deposits. If you are going to do upgrades for things like the countertops or upgraded flooring or things like that, they want that money up front, because if you don't pay for it and you default on the house, they got to put it back on the market, and they now have to market that house with those updates. So they would like to know that those updates have been paid for, and in this case, they're probably going to be paid for twice. Once by your client, your buyer that requested them, and another time by somebody else, because they're going to get paid for twice. Okay, so the response is a simple one. Is yes, they're a builder. They're a large builder. They are the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Everything is negotiable within the contract, to a certain extent. If we try to negotiate it and change it, great. If we're successful, great. If not, then do you have the power of the press? Do you have the power of the online review process? Do you have a recourse in terms of Better Business Bureau complaints? Those kind of things? You absolutely do. So should you be concerned about signing a builder's contract? If we've done our homework and we know that the builder is a reputable builder with a large name and with a reputation in the community, are they going to screw you over deliberately? Probably not. Yeah.
And I tend to tell my clients to do their research on the builder if they're hesitant about signing the contract. I mean, a lot of times I do my research on the builder, so I know certain things. I said, this is my information. However, I would like you to go do your own research and look to see their complaints, look to see if there are any, in the Better Business Bureau and stuff like that. So,
yep, absolutely. Okay, so let's have another conversation about some differences between new construction and resale. Are you going to find right now in this current market, are you going to find a whole lot of properties, new construction on the MLS?
no.
Why?
They're not putting them on the MLS like they used to because, one, they're going fast. Two, the builders are doing their own advertisement as far as on their own website. So they don't have to pay that cost that they normally would.
There,
only the
why
builders
pay?
only the builders that have inventory right now standing are putting properties on the MLS.
That's a great point. So let's answer that question. What's the difference between standing inventory and new construction inventory? So what define standing inventory? Somebody other than Heather Gale. I know she knows the answer.
Something that's either broken ground or is already built.
Okay. Yeah. It's ready to go, as opposed to the alternative, which is what? They're buying the land and the floor plan?
Yeah, future phases to be built.
Okay. So standing inventory is one that they built without a particular buyer in mind, without a buyer already pre-selected that is going to buy it with, okay, I want the Santa Cecilia granite countertops, I want the carpet in these rooms, and I want the hardwood floorings in these rooms. That builder already has a buyer for that property, and they are in the process of selecting their own finishes, their own everything. As opposed to standing inventory, which is, we don't have anybody for this particular house or this particular lot, but we're going to build it anyway, and when it's done, we'll put it on the market for $450,000 or whatever price they select. Okay, so they're not putting most properties on the MLS nowadays because they're not going to have that cost. So how do you, as an agent, find them if they're not on the MLS?
Should I answer?
Yeah, go ahead, Heather. Gale.
I mean, how I find them is I'm always out there looking for new construction. I Google new construction communities, and I'll go to the individual website. I'll call up to see if they have any coming construction where at, and then I'm just out there looking for new construction.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you, in these scenarios, do you ever send a buyer client to a new construction neighborhood without you?
Oh, no.
And why is that?
Because once they go without you, they are no longer your client unless you have spoken to the on-site agent and you have either registered yourself or the client with that agent. But once they go without you, it becomes the builder's client.
It could, it definitely could, and you're at risk of that, at a higher risk of that in that scenario. I have in this situation had conversations with my client and said, by all means, if you want to go check out an open house, if you want to go check out a neighborhood, feel free to do so. When the agent pounces upon you, which they will, then you just simply advise them, I'm already working with a real estate agent. I'm just preliminary at this point. But if they ever ask you to register with them, tell them you have an agent and his or her name is, Claire Williams or Jay Willard or Leah Valley or whatever, so that you are registered with them as having that client, because otherwise you could potentially lose out on the opportunity and get yourself cut out of the deal. Okay. All right. What other questions do you have about new construction before we've got 3 more minutes? We might have to continue the conversation next time. But what other questions do you have? Anybody got anything? Okay, I got one for you. If you've got a new construction under contract, it's about to close, your client comes to you and says, should I do a home inspection on new construction? What is your response?
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
I tell them, hold on until we're getting to the 11th month mark because of the repairs. So I tell them we'll go in, view it ourselves, and wait to the 11th month mark, and then do an actual inspection so you get everything repaired under the warranty.
You're absolutely. So first off, I love the unison. Yes. So anytime a client asks you, it's just, it's the same response for, should I disclose X? The problem I had with my septic system back a year ago. Should I disclose? Yes. Should I get an inspection? The answer is always going to be yes. As a real estate agent, we always want to make sure that our clients are making informed decisions, so that we absolutely do recommend. Now, is there likely to be anything major found in a new construction inspection? If the builder theoretically is doing his job and doing it well, probably not. But I've been in home inspections before, and I consider myself an experienced agent. That there's not many things that can be found in a home that I haven't seen before. But I recently had a new construction that chose to do an inspection, and the inspector walked out of there, and I walked out of the inspection going, well, there's 2 things I would have never have figured out and would have never have known. One of them was that the hot water heater was sized inappropriately or too small for the number of bedrooms in the house. Would you have known that? I didn't know that. The other thing that the building inspector that caught on this particular property that I would have never have thought is, y'all know what the, like when there's brick outside of a window and there's that brick at the bottom of the window sash or the window sill, that brick is supposed to be elevated so that when water lands on it, it sheds off. This particular brick had been installed where it was perfectly flat and the water could run into the window instead of out of the window. And that's a pretty significant thing. That's brick. Brick doesn't get fixed and changed easily. It took a pretty more significant undertaking to get that job done. But I would have never have known about it because that's not something that would have been on my radar screen as an agent. But a builder or an inspector, they can find stuff like that. So if I'd have said, no, you're not likely to find anything, could that client have held me accountable for the fact that they didn't get their home inspection? They sure could have.
Yes.
Quick question: do you do one on the rough and the final, or just the final?
It's up to you. I typically, lately, the ones that I've been getting involved in are past the rough in stage anyway, so they're typically at the final. That's where it's going to be the most important anyway. But it's really a judgment call, and present it to your client. Let them be the ultimate decision factor.
Jay, when it comes
Yes,
to your clients, a lot of them be like, well, it's a new construction, so I don't need an inspection, And I say, well, everything man-made is not necessarily, fixed to
Perfection.
the best, but, perfection. So how do you respond to that client if they ask you, well, if they tell you, no, I don't want an inspection, you know, it's a brand new.
Yeah, I mean, that is absolutely within your right, but then you can also cite to them, hey, other people in my office have encountered this exact same scenario. It's been a while since I've done a new construction, but it is possible for a home inspector to find things in a new construction inspection. Would you rather know, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better off you are. If you don't know about a problem, it's much harder to get the builder to come back and fix it than if you know about it now and you make it, a condition of the contract.
Right.
So the more you know, the better off you are. Could a couple $100 now potentially save you thousands of dollars and a lot of frustration in the future? It's possible, yeah. So does that make sense for you, Mr. Buyer, to be able to do that? Or would you rather just hedge your bets and trust a builder?
Oh, that makes great sense.
Okay. All right, everybody, it's 2 minutes after. I took up an extra couple of minutes of your time. Please let me know if you have any other questions. If anything comes up this week, you know how to get in touch with me via both coaching session, a 30-minute coaching session, as well as a 15-minute call. Feel free to take advantage of that. And if anybody has anything else, you know how to get in touch with me this week.